Hello and welcome to a Thursday night showdown show. My name is Adam Levitan, as always, joined by the showdown virgin himself, Cody Main. Tonight, we have a game between Teddy Bridgewater and Case Keenum. Both teams are ravaged by injury. Some wind in the area. One of the lowest totals we've seen all season, I think, down around 40. Cody, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Adam. It's rough, man. It felt like we hopped back into the time machine, and I was waiting for Sean Newsham to hop on and do the preseason slate. This is what it feels like. It's going to be an ugly slate.
Shout out to Dearness Johnson, Team Preseason and Team AAF for those guys who played AAF. Dearness Johnson, one of the best players in the AAF. We will get to him in a second here. Before we get into it, wanted to remind everyone of two things. First, this is a small sliver of what we offer inside our full NFL in-season package. We do have weekly and monthly options available right now. Check it out if you haven't yet. Second, NBA season is underway. We have two separate products there, the DFS product and the props product. You can head to the subscribe tab up here, subscribe tab, or the NBA tab. Check out our plans for props we're taking, and the DFS content schedule, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Generally speaking, Cody, how do you think about these projected low-scoring, close games? I mean, this is, Browns favored by 1.5. This is total around 40. I mean, this could be really tight and really ugly. At least that's what the consensus is. How do you think about these kind of games?
Yeah, not only that, but we're dealing with, as you mentioned, so many injuries that this slate on FanDuel, it's literally a pick 'em. And I know we don't talk about FanDuel much, but there is no salary cap on FanDuel. Even if you tried, you can't max it out tonight. So it's a similar situation on DraftKings, though, too. So I think what's going to happen, and we kind of saw this on one of those London slates with the Falcons and the Jets. It was basically a pick 'em over there, and you really, really, really saw ownership condense on the top end because optimizers are just going to jam those players into lineups. So first and foremost, get comfortable leaving salary on the table in this spot. I think lineups that spend less than 45K are firmly in play tonight. Something crazy like that is probably going to ship this thing. And you're just trying to maximize points best you can, like we are in any slate, but you're gonna end up with some plays that feel pretty ugly. And you're going to need to get off some of these popular plays at the upper end of the salary range because they're just going to be so popular.
Yeah, and we'll get into those in a second here. By the way, I almost forgot. I buried the lead. Look at my background. I mean, shout out to me. Tweak says Schefter could never. Exactly, bro. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? I got this sign all the way from Turkey. Dustin says that sign is sweet. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, what a bookshelf upgrade indeed. Okay, let's get into it here. Quarterback position, I was surprised. I was genuinely surprised that the line went from 6 or 5 or whatever it was at when Baker was expected to play down to 1. Because the way Baker was playing and the way Baker's health was, I didn't really think that it was that big of a downgrade from Baker to Case Keenum. Maybe that is a bad take. I mean, Keenum has had big games. They were a long time ago. He's getting older now, but man, Baker was playing so poorly. I don't believe that it's actually a 5-point difference between Baker and Keenum in the spread. And so for that reason, I think the Browns are probably a little bit undervalued overall at -1, -1.5. But who knows? The market's typically right on these things. What do you think about Keenum tonight? And what about playing quarterbacks in captain or otherwise?
Yeah, and as mentioned at the top, these guys, both Bridgewater and Keenum, are going to be among the slate's most popular options. We know quarterbacks are ripe for this format. They consistently rank among the top overall scorers. We've added the roster construction utilization projections to the breakdown, and as you can see tonight, I think that the field too is kind of favoring these Denver heavy builds. You get the guys at the top with Bridgewater and some of the skill position players that we'll talk about. So I'm with you. I don't think that the downgrade from Baker to Keenum is all that big. I expect the Browns they should still be favored. I think it should be closer to the 5 or 6 where it opened. And I'm very confident in going Browns heavy tonight. I feel very good about that. And Keenum's going to be a big part of that. I don't have all that much interest in him at captain, though. So mostly a flex option for both him and in lineups that I prioritize Denver players with Bridgewater. But I think we can get more upside at some of these skill position players in our captain spot.
Why don't you tell the people what this new edition is? Because they may not understand how do you do it, why did you do it, and what does it mean? Some people might not be that familiar with these numbers.
Yeah, so I've been tracking just all kinds of historical context for every primetime showdown slate for basically the past 2 years. And one of the members in Discord had asked if they could see what roster construction breakdown looked like on a percentage utilization basis. So what this means, as you can see on the chart, 1-5 would mean 1 underdog and 5 favorites. So for tonight, that would be 1 Denver Bronco player, 5 Browns players. And all that's doing is projecting how many of the lineups in the DraftKings flagship GPP will utilize that type of construction. So as we've talked about a lot on this show, and as I've talked about in my articles, the 2-4 construction has been a big edge historically in showdown slates. So referencing 2 underdogs, 4 favorites. But I think those type of lineups and the 3-3 lineups tonight are going to be pretty well utilized given how well some of these Denver players project. So I'm actually kind of flipping it tonight. I think that I would rather go Browns heavy. I don't think the Browns project as well, and the players that do are much cheaper, as we'll get into with like Dearness Johnson and some of the receivers are much cheaper. So I think that we're going to see less 4-2 and 5-1 rosters tonight. I think that's kind of the edge tonight.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I love that this edition here of what types of rosters people are going to be going to for sure. Did you mention your thoughts on Teddy? Because I don't know if you have to play. Like a lot of times we say you have to play both quarterbacks, or it's really good to play both quarterbacks, even if they're both in flex. What do you think about playing both quarterbacks tonight, or anything else on Teddy?
I still think you want to in cash because, obviously you're just trying to maximize raw points in cash, but it is a little concerning in GPPs. He's dealing with lower body injuries himself. He was hit 17 times last week, sacked 5 times. The offensive line looked pretty bad. They're 27th in Football Outsiders adjusted sack rate. We obviously know how good the Browns pass rush is. So it could be a long night for Teddy. I don't think you have to go both quarterbacks. I think you're asking for a lot with no quarterbacks in a lineup tonight. I think you're going to end up needing those raw points at some point with how thin these options get.
Kevin says Cody is a Kevin Stefanski lookalike. Have you ever heard that before?
You know what? This lookalike stuff is so crazy because a friend of the show, Josh ADHD, said I looked like who did Josh say I look like? I've gotten Matthew McConaughey. I've gotten Zac Efron. I think I just look like a generic white dude, like with the comb over and the stubble. Like I don't see the Stefanski thing.
Keith says that it's hard to take Cody seriously without a 6 sign behind him. Agreed. Maybe we'll get Cody a sign. Okay. Let's go to running back because it's super interesting. I mean, we know what the Broncos are going to do. There has not been a more dead even split in backfield than there has been all season between Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams. Now, you could say Melvin's been banged up. He's had a hip. He's had a leg issue last week. He's been on the injury report listed questionable each of the previous 2 weeks. Now he has a short week. He's obviously older. I think that Javonte is like the no-brainer to play over Melvin in the specific spot. It's hard to project it like that because that's not what they've been doing all year. But to me, it's just a no-brainer that on a short week, with Melvin being banged up, Javonte is the better play, and he takes there. Then we need to get into the Brown stuff because that's where it's way more complicated.
Yeah, with the Broncos running backs, I tend to agree with you. Javonte, the younger guy, Melvin, the aging veteran in a short week makes sense, but he's basically leading this team in every statistical category. He has been more efficient to this point. Prices are close enough, and really, like I said, it doesn't matter on this slate. I think ownership is close enough, but I would just take what we've seen with superior usage from Melvin Gordon and kind of let go of my priors on thinking Javonte Williams is going to be a better back for tonight. But yeah, you make a compelling case just with the fact that you've got an older guy on a short week that you could see more Javonte run tonight. I think with both of these guys, I'm fine running them together in flex, projecting a more run heavy game script for Denver with Teddy banged up a little bit. But if you have one of them in the captain spot, I would exclude the other one. I think you're asking for a lot. If you expect a ceiling game from Melvin, it likely comes at the expense of Javonte and vice versa.
Yep, and agreed. And Javonte, honestly, will probably be more owned. I mean, fantasy people love Javonte, and he's cheaper. So, we have it really close. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Javonte came out, I don't want to say significantly, but a little bit ahead of Melvin in ownership. All right, this Browns running back thing, man. I mean, they lose Nick Chubb, okay. Then they lose Kareem Hunt. And it's confusing because Demetric Felton, who we played in the preseason a bunch, I think we might have played him twice out of the 3 weeks, Demetric Felton, because he was playing half his snaps at running back and half at wide receiver in the preseason. In the regular season, he's almost exclusively played wide receiver. Now the question is, what do they do with Hunt and Chubb out? Do they go all Dearness with John Kelly, or do they mix Felton in on some rush and then preserve his pass catching role also? I mean, no Odell tonight. We're not expecting Odell. We are expecting Jarvis Landry back. They're going to need wide receiver help as well. It's confusing, man. Dearness Johnson is like, runs 4.7 or something like that. Like, he's not like an explosive guy, but I do think that he'll be the feature back tonight. He's very cheap. He's going to be owned. I don't know. What can you make sense of for the Browns running backs tonight?
And we have it projected that way from a rush share perspective tonight as well. So this is where this slate obviously gets really tricky. He's one of the best plays on the slate from a projection standpoint, but a lot of that could change if our inputs are wrong. I think we're projecting for around a 60% rush share tonight. I think that's right most often. But if you get Demetric Felton in this Kareem Hunt role and Nick Chubb in the you get Dearness Johnson in the Nick Chubb role, then Demetric's going to look like a great play. He's a better pass catching back. I think he's more explosive, and we'll see that tonight. Dearness is just a 4.8 plotter, but if he does get 60% of the team's rushing attempts and he's involved in the goal line, and he is used out of the backfield as a pass catcher at 4,600, I mean, it's just kind of a layup. But if you're looking for leverage in large field tournaments and you think that the inputs might be wrong, you think that Demetric Felton is more used as a running back, then it's a really good spot for leverage, because I don't expect too much ownership to filter that toward him with as strong a play as Dearness Johnson is. As you mentioned in the preseason, that first week, Stefanski used him strictly as a wide receiver. And then in weeks 2 and 3, he was used basically 50-50. He was used as a wide receiver and then handled about 25% of the team's rushing attempts, which for preseason is pretty strong.
People are sending me messages that it looks now like Odell is going to play. I repeat, Odell, surprisingly, looks like he's going to play in this game. I was just looking around to see if I could get any Peoples-Jones unders in or something like that. And yeah, James Palmer is confirming Odell will play tonight per source. He's fighting through the shoulder injury, but he's giving it a go. Odell's going to gut it out tonight, and we expect Jarvis Landry to be back for this game also. We'll get to that in a second, but I do think, with Odell and Landry out there, there's a lot less targets to go around for everyone, assuming that Odell is close to full strength. Let's talk about these wide receivers. Why don't we start with Denver while we digest some of this Cleveland news? Courtland Sutton has been playing like an absolutely true alpha. Jerry Jeudy will not be back for this game. Might get Jerry Jeudy back week 8, though. We'll see on that. But yeah, I mean, Courtland Sutton, given that you have a lot of salary and given that Courtland Sutton has recently flashed this huge ceiling, I mean, people are going to be piling in to Courtland Sutton. And I understand it. He's shown a low floor. He's shown a high ceiling, though. What do you think about Sutton tonight and any other Denver wide receiver takes?
Yeah, massive role for Courtland Sutton. 43.5% air yard share, 25% target share. This Cleveland defense has been beat deep. He's getting about 35% of his targets, 20 plus yards downfield. So another kind of slam dunk spot, but the ownership's going to be there. He'll probably be my most utilized captain option tonight. I just think the upside is too big, and I'll find ways to get different in the other flex options in those lineups. But absolutely love Sutton. An easy pivot off of Sutton is Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick is on the field as much, running as many routes as Courtland Sutton, just, obviously not earning quite the target share. Wouldn't be crazy to see that flip, just over a 1-game sample. So if you saw Tim Patrick lead the team in target share tonight, would not be shocked. It just kind of makes sense as an obvious pay down pivot option where you don't even really need the salary.
Yeah, they've lost a lot of guys too. I mean, obviously KJ Hamler went down, and so they have Kendall Hinton playing there. Everybody remembers Kendall Hinton from being forced to play quarterback in that mess of a game last year, but I don't think he'd make the cut for me here, considering how many other cheap guys we have. Odell is in. Landry is in. DPJ is in. Hollywood Higgins, the real Hollywood Rashard Higgins, is in. Anthony Schwartz is in as well. Jarvis Landry's been out for a while, but he's a super tough dude. Not surprising if he came back to a full blast role tonight. Odell, I think, is probably a little bit more risk of aggravating. But still, Odell, I think people will be on less than maybe they would because this news is coming out later. Any thoughts on the Browns wide receivers?
Yeah, I think this obviously makes Case Keenum a better overall option, whether Odell's 100% or not, or whether Landry's 100% or not. I think this makes you feel a little bit more confident in Keenum tonight, knowing that Odell's going to play. Odell's another guy that was ripe for some regression in the box score. just given how poorly things have gone. Now, whether he'll be as targeted as he was catching passes from Baker Mayfield, we'll have to kind of see how that shakes out. But I would expect him and Jarvis to kind of share target responsibilities tonight. I would expect that to come out pretty evenly, and all those guys are priced right around each other. Now, DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, isn't going to be owned at all at 6,400 with Odell and Jarvis active. So, if you're looking for deep leverage, if he just catches one deep bomb, it might be enough. But I just like now it's kind of the double stacks with Case Keenum a little bit more if you expect a little bit more pass heavy approach with those guys healthy.
Yeah, DPJ is obviously, if you're just looking at his box score, got inflated by that Hail Mary that he caught last night. Worth noting there. And yeah, if you can still get to any Donovan Peoples-Jones unders, props, we were thinking about his under when we thought Odell was going to be out, and that was up around 40 yards. Now, I mean, no brainer to go DPJ unders if you can still get them. I'm not sure what's still out there. Other side we covered. All right, tight end position. Credit to Noah Fant, because since Albert O's been out, I mean, he's had an awesome role. He capitalized on it last week, but man, I mean, he's had a lot of games where he's fallen flat on his face. I do think that his role is going to be awesome tonight. He's coming off a really big game and made that inflate his ownership some. We have his total ownership up at 47%, which is one of the higher ones on the slate. But man, yeah, I mean, Noah Fant, like similar to Hawkinson, and maybe not as reliable, but Fant is a candidate for 7, 8, 9 catches. And Njoku is someone that, like, could have literally an air ball up to like the 140-yard game that we saw. And so, I don't know, it's a really wide range for me on Njoku. 14.6% owners, probably somewhere I'd be comfortable with him, but any higher than that, I feel like I'd take a risk and go for a full fade on Njoku, and just feel like, he has so many air balls in his range when they're also playing Hooper and they're also playing Harrison Bryant. So any takes on Fant and any of the other tight ends?
It's tricky for me with Fant tonight, and we know how well Showdown tight ends have been performing this season. So fading that is a risky proposition. But with Fant priced between Sutton and Tim Patrick, and as owned as he's going to be, if I'm spending up, I would much rather just have Sutton. I think the ceiling is much bigger on somebody like Sutton. And if I'm looking for leverage, I'd rather just pay $600 down and go with somebody like Patrick, who's on the field as much, running as many routes, and could potentially see more targets tonight anyway. So I think Fant's owned in a range where I'll certainly have some, but more likely to just go under and get onto Tim Patrick for leverage and get up to Sutton for the ceiling.
Johnny says that I'm clearly ignoring the PSM by fading Njoku. You're right, buddy. I mean, yes, the data is very clear on Njoku. There's no doubt about that. Keith says obvious Odell blow up island game after sinking lineups all year. Yeah, I mean, that would be continuing with a theme for sure. Adam is triggered that he's doing the show and not betting unders. We actually, while we're doing the show, NBA props team just got on one Terrence Mann over 1.5 assists plus 120. So if you are in the NBA props Discord and you have that product, be sure that you are multitasking, as we are trying to here as well. Let's see. Air yards model, Odell. Yeah, he is indeed in the air yards model. Will Brinson, friend of the show, says, if anyone says you look like Stefanski, you take it and run, Cody. Yeah,
I think he's also like 20 years older than me, so I don't know how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kip is asking about the winds. So, yeah, I mean, it's windy in Cleveland today. Indeed. I think that we've seen games really get wiped out by wind in Cleveland. I don't think that the sustained winds are hard enough to be a big factor tonight, but it's something worth considering. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely in play. I saw gusts 20-25, but we'll see. All right. Kicker and defense. So people are going to want to play kicker and defense here because it's going to be low scoring, could be windy, et cetera, et cetera. I think people probably lean more towards defense than kicker, considering they're cheaper. And people think that with the wind and everything, there's going to be more opportunities for defensive chaos. And they're also pretty significantly cheaper also. So what do you think about kicker and defense on a slate like this?
Yeah, coming into the slate, I thought they were going to be two of the most popular options. You've got a banged up Teddy Bridgewater, and that offensive line looked rough last week with him getting sacked 5 times. And then you've got backup in Case Keenum and another capable pass rush with the Broncos. But you just don't need the salary relief tonight. And I don't think they're going to be too popular. I really like, I mentioned 4-2 Browns and 5-1 Browns teams. We've seen that Pat Shurmur has been pretty willing to go pass heavy when they fall behind. He's up to 72% drop back rate when they're playing from behind. So if you get the Browns, playing with the lead, and you've got the ball in Dearness Johnson's belly, and you've got this Browns defensive line just pinning their ears back and chasing Teddy Bridgewater around, I think it makes for a nice play. And I don't think they're going to get too owned. Now, it's one of those things that could get steamed in single entry and 3-max and stuff like that, where people are more likely to hand build. But for anyone using optimizers in large field MME stuff, I just don't think you're going to get a whole lot of defenses funneling in.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I agree. I like Brown's defense for sure. I mean, Teddy got absolutely ripped apart last Sunday. Okay, we have maybe 5-10 minutes to go here or so, and we can take some questions before we get to the flag plant segment of the program. Any questions that you guys have, go ahead and fire them in now. Let's see here. Oh, we have a season-long question, Cody. My God, season-long. Who to start flex? Pick 2. Tim Patrick, AJ Green, Khalil Herbert, Alex Collins. My God, man. Oof. I don't know. You're going to have to go consult our rankings that are up, and Thorman's rankings are up. Our projections are up. Silva's matchups are also up. I do think that Damian Williams is probably going to end up sitting out this game based on these latest tweets. That would be 100% rush share for Khalil Herbert. So that's at least interesting there to me. But yeah. All right. Optimal PSM play tonight. Probably, I would say, let me look at the board here. But I think that David Njoku might be the PSM leader on this slate. Just consulting with our R&D team. Yep, it's Njoku. There's no doubt about it. Felton or McLaughlin?
Format just matters so much there. If you're looking for upside, it's obviously Felton, just off on the off chance that he plays in that Kareem Hunt role. But I would imagine that McLaughlin is projected for more raw points, and anything cashy would be McLaughlin.
If you make Dearness Johnson your captain, would you also play Case Keenum with him? What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't think that there's too much negative correlation there. Obviously, with Dearness at captain, you're hoping for him to at least score 1 touchdown, probably get over the 100-yard mark, which means they're in a more run-heavy game script, but it doesn't mean you can't get a couple touchdown passes from Keenum either. So fine with that.
Stefano says Case Keenum, PSM rocket ship. Stop it. Don't be
no
ridiculous.
Chance.
Don't be ridiculous. All right. What about playing Sutton and Patrick together in lineups? What do you think about that?
Yeah, especially if you have one of those guys at captain, I would probably have Teddy in that lineup. But both of those guys in flex without Teddy, perfectly fine with me as well.
Yeah, of course you can fade Landry tonight. Josh, yes, can you fade Landry? Of course you can fade anyone. And I think, Landry is just like a middling play. So it's totally fine to fade him. I think that when you make these lineups, you should be thinking about like 90th or 95th percentile outcomes. And so I wouldn't worry about floor and Jarvis Landry getting hurt. Like if you play Jarvis Landry, you assume that he's going to be completely healthy and hit his ceiling. And, I think that they wouldn't bring him back unless he was ready. So Dearness Johnson or Javonte Williams?
Yeah, I think for me it's Dearness, but all that's dependent on what you think his role is. They're projected pretty similarly. I think we have Dearness with a slight edge. They're going to be projected for similar ownership, and Dearness is cheaper. So,
yeah, Dearness is a lot cheaper. I mean, 4,600 versus 7K. My God.
Yeah. And one thing with Odell being in now, salary will tighten up a little bit because he's going to garner some ownership. You're still going to get some ownership to Jarvis. People aren't going to completely ignore DPJ. So it just adds one more guy in that mid range that'll soak up a little bit of ownership. So these sub like 4K punts that we probably weren't even considering before probably come into play just a little bit more now.
JR says, would you still include the sub 10% ownership group or not needed tonight in MME?
This is probably one of the slates where I felt least confident in ownership projections, and I felt like they've been pretty good all year. But I mean, if you're doing that group tonight that we've talked about a lot on past slates, I would probably bump it up to like 15 because some of those guys that are around that 15 range could easily come in sub 10.
Matt says it's pretty rude of Odell to decide to play tonight after he's already built a bunch of lineups. Yeah, I mean, tell him. Can we show the FD projections? Yeah. Little Tunchi is always in here asking for the FanDuel projections. I mean, I hear you and I appreciate it, but I think we've established that we believe it's almost impossible to win in FanDuel one game slate long term for a multitude of reasons, just the way the game is structured and how many dupes you're going to have and how you can't avoid it. Yeah, it's just a game that's almost impossible to win, and we're here to win. Like, obviously, as I said, we don't give a fuck about the community. We're here to win, and so if we can't win on FanDuel, we're not going to talk about it. All right, do a couple more here. Keenum Tombson. Yeah, good point. Good point. Tunchi says, total expectations for Odell now that he's active, endurance between MG3 and Javonte. Yeah, we went over that stuff at the beginning. Just to recap, I think Odell is likely out there at less than 100%, but I could see like a chemistry spark between him and Keenum where that he didn't have with Baker. Like, it's so obvious that Odell and Baker are just like never on the same page. I prefer Javonte over Melvin Gordon, and I think Cody prefers Melvin Gordon, but I think on the short week, I prefer Javonte. Kyle from corporate chimed in to say that without 100 likes on this video, there's no flag plants. Blame Kyle. Yeah. 2 cent. Yeah, 2 cent.
What is this 2 cent?
Yeah, it was some guy asked about it on the solo pod. I mean, it's some perverted term that I had never heard of before.
By the way, nice sidestep of that PSM question.
Oh my God.
On the Washington Post Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, this guy from the Washington Post, like, he asked me to come on at this Spaces thing, and of course, the first question is someone came on and asked about like DK Metcalf and the PSM or something like that.
So
like,
good.
Oh my God, I know I can't take you guys anywhere. Blake says getting a lot of lineups with both Cleveland running backs and Johnson at captain. Is that too aggressive for cash?
For cash, that might be okay. The only problem that you run into is if John Kelly does get like 20 or 25% of the team's rushing attempts, you're hoping to lock up, like 80 to 85% of the team's rushing attempts and running back pass catches as well. So I wouldn't feel too good about that.
We just found, the props team just found a Donovan Peoples-Jones line that is still up. So I am looking for now to try to bet it. I believe it is on Fox Bet. Under 2.5 catches is minus 110. I'm going to go ahead and take that right now. And then also, oh God, they're thinking about whether they want to take it. Okay. And then also, I think you can get under 30 something and a half yards. So yeah, I mean, we're multitasking here.
Look at this,
boys.
Dropping free props.
Is 5 tight ends in one lineup popping in the PSM / the Mackey model? Considering Cleveland plays 3 and the Broncos have a very good one. Yeah, it's possible, but no, I would probably limit to max 1 of the Cleveland tight ends. It's hard for me to see more than 1 Cleveland tight end playing, right? Would you ever play like Hooper and Njoku together?
No, I don't think so. No.
Yeah. Sam says Keenum might be better than Baker. I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, I don't think it's crazy. I don't know what this guy's talking about. In the early 2000s, Barry White was the original Arby's voice guy. Today, the current Arby's voice guy is Ving Rhames. I'm not sure what the point is there.
Incredible.
If you're on PrizePicks, promo code ETR, shout out to us. The DPJ is under 34.5 there if you're on PrizePicks. Did the Washington Post ask what the PSM question was referring to? No. Thankfully. All right, let's get to the flag plants here. Enough is enough, Cody. Connor says, it's Connor from the Wall Street Journal. We run an exclusive story on the PSM. Here to comment. All right, that's enough already. All right, go ahead, Cody.
All right, I love Cortland Sutton. He's probably going to be my most exposed captain. I like Noah Fant in any other game other than tonight. And I just think those guys are going to be too owned, too popular. So for a little bit of leverage there, I'm going with Tim Patrick as my favorite captain option at his ownership tonight. I think he is the optimal captain tonight.
Timmy P. Okay. I'm going to go team preseason here. It's only fitting that I go team preseason for this slate. I think that the Browns are going to win the game. I don't really feel great about running into the Dearness Johnson chalk. I'm tempted to go Jarvis Landry flag plant in his first game back. And I think that's the safer play, but I'm actually going to stick with Demetric Felton here as the flag plant. I think he's going to get really low ownership. We have 18% right now. I think you can gain a lot of leverage if Felton can outscore some of these guys in the similar price range. So he's 5K. I know Njoku is in that range. There's some other guys that are in play. You know, if by some miracle he outscores Dearness, you gain massive leverage. And so I think Dimitri could get 3, 4, 5 carries, but more importantly, like 3, 4, 5 targets, and hopefully he can turn one of those into a big play. He really is a big play way to happen. So I'll go with Felton, and my runner-up would be Jarvis Landry for the flag plan. All right. We've said it all. Shout out to my sign. I made the show, I mean, so much better. Imagine not clicking on our YouTube content now that you know I have this sign. It's just absolutely crazy. All right. For Cody, for my sign, for producer Adam, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.